Tom Lee, Director of Research at Fundstrat, said last week how he sees Tesla stock as already sold out, and he's bullish on it despite the current China tariff wars. We'll watch the video where he explains the difference between stocks that are sold out, meaning that there are less people willing to sell their stocks, versus stocks that have been oversold. Surprisingly, he prefers sold out stocks. He then also explains how despite Tesla being 30% dependent on China, he doesn't expect it to go much lower, and in fact is headed higher. We'll also watch a video of Moody's analytics economist Mark Zandi, who reports that car purchases were higher in March, perhaps showing how people are moving up their buying of cars in anticipation of future price increases. Got Larry Goldberg here with us today. Larry's on the move again, and I appreciate you spending some time with me.
Great to be here, Robert.
So we both like Tom Lee of Fundstrat. We follow what he says. He's included Tesla stock into his Granny Shots ETF, our fund, and so he likes to always cover it. And so let's watch what he's saying here. He did this video last week. He calls it Granny Shots. I explained to people because it's like these are the list of stocks that he thinks that are like easy layups or easy, free throws that should be high chance of success. So let's watch a little bit of what he's saying here.
Now, another thing is we're probably getting close to the point. I'm not going to say we're there yet for stocks to be in sold out conditions, not oversold. Walter Deemer coined this phrase. He says oversold markets are ones that have gone down a lot, and sold out markets are ones where there's no more stock left to sell. Okay. And he goes on to point out a sold out market has gone down a whole lot, but there's not more stock left to sell. The news is terrible, the outlook bleak, but there's just nothing left to come out. I think we might be seeing this with Mag 7. It looks like on a relative basis to the S&P, they bottomed on March 28th, so about 2 weeks ago. And on April 8th, you can see when the market had that panic freak out, made a higher low. It's almost to me suggesting it's sold out. Same thing with high beta stocks. They bottomed on a relative basis April 4th. And actually, as you can see, I've been finding support even on April 9th. So is that sold out? I think so. Well, what about Granny Shots? I thought it'd be helpful, and Tireless Ken is going to cover this in more detail in the next section, but when you look at global exposure, especially to suppliers, few of the companies have significant exposure to China. Of the 33 stocks, 2 stocks have more than 30% supplier exposure to China, GE Vernova and Tesla. What we mean by that is, as you can see on this chart, for GE, roughly 30% of its parts come from China, Tesla, 25%. Tesla has a strong relationship with China, and GE supplies critical infrastructure. I think that they do have pricing power there. Now, there is some strange news for the Model S and X, which aren't the high volume sellers in China. They have suspended taking orders on their website for China. But as you can see, on a relative basis, China bottomed versus the S&P on March 10th, basically more than a month ago. And on April 8th, they held a higher low. So I think it looks pretty sold out or washed out.
I think that's where he ends here, Larry. So he actually said China, but he's referring to Tesla stock. It's bottomed out on March 10th. It had another low, but it didn't go as low as it was before. And he's saying that he thinks that it's sold out. Do you agree with this kind of analysis, Larry?
I agree in a general form. And I think sold out happens in waves. So when you have really bad news, or what the market determines to be bad news about a stock, there are always a group of shareholders who will bail at that point in time. So I think it's fair to say that Tesla is, in Tom Lee's words, sold out, or Tom Lee's terms, sold out in terms of the current news and the current shareholders. But there's always a group of shareholders which, if there's another bout of that bad news, may bail. So it's a question of, the current moment and the current group shareholders. So I take a modified view with Tom. Now, the real question is, when earnings come next week, and if there's really bad news on earnings, will there be another group of shareholders wanting to bail, whether it's an institution or a group of retail shareholders? Or will the product announcements or the company announcements spur another wave of buying and consolidate the current group of holders? I don't know. And that's really the open question. So I take a modified view on what Tom is saying.
I mean, he's using technicals, right? He's gone, it went this far down. So, and then it went down again after another bad news, but it didn't go as far down. Okay. But this idea of this thing where you've already washed out your weak hands. So these are the people who bought a stock, then, they get tired of it and they keep getting negative news. They bail. And then over time, the kind of people that you still have on the stock who's held on through all this are people who are like, I'm going to hold on until I hear some great news about robotaxi or the bot, despite of what happens. So this, I think, famously, who said it? It was Cathie Wood, right? You're an ARK investor. You just interviewed her. Great interview, by the way, where she said that the longer the base, so in this case, Tesla, 4 years of being flat. And then that's the one that will skyrocket because this is the reasoning. During those 4 years, the people who've held on to it for that long, they've sold the ones who couldn't do it. So this one, there was that big scare. A lot of people sold. Then, so do you agree with that idea that this is, the beta stocks? He pointed out that beta stocks do this. And then I think specifically Tesla too. Like, this idea that Elon Musk, right? Like, what did he say again this week? And it's like every week he will say something that is outrageous or something just, by at some point, the people who've stuck with it are no longer going to just jump anymore. I mean, some will still, but not like the huge amounts that we're talking about. Do you think that that's true?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that Tesla has built a huge base. I mean, 4 years is a long time. But what we've seen is the transformation of a company. I mean, Elon Musk made the decision several years ago to go all in on FSD, to go all in on robotics, to go all in on AI in Tesla, and he's turned the company from being a car company to be an AI company, an embodied AI company. And we're about to see that new company launch, that new business launch. So I think the breakout's going to be incredible. I don't know whether it'll happen this year or next year, but I think it's going to happen in a big way. So I may be sort of the metaphoric average shareholder that is signed on to this new Tesla. And I think we have a very large group of Tesla shareholders that are equally committed. And we're beginning to see the institutions really sign on to this idea. So I think that is really a product explanation, for this base building. But that's the body of shareholders you have right now. So yeah, I'm signed on to that. I just don't know what the timing is. Nobody knows what the timing is.
Larry, just this week, Stephen Levine of The Information wrote an article, and he's recanting this time when Elon Musk was having a huge debate with his Tesla executive team. This was actually just February of last year. It wasn't that long ago. And they had a huge debate about whether or not they should build a Model 2, right, a compact car. The executive teams were saying that, look, if we build a Model 2 compact car, huge market, huge TAM, global, we'll build this car, we'll sell it, and we'll make car sales go up again. Elon, of course, they did reports, and they were concerned that if Elon wanted to do robotaxi, that robotaxi won't generate the revenue and won't roll out as fast. right? Because they need to get regulatory approval. They need to go country by country. It's unsure whether I'll do it. Elon said, I hear what you're saying, but we're going to go all in on robotaxi. And then they said, well, there's ways that we can kind of like have our plan Bs. And we don't know what the plan B is, right? Whether it's a modified compact car like the Cybercab, or it could be like a cheaper Model Y, those kind of things we're debating. We'll find out in a week. So do you think that the revenue for robotaxi is going to be a lot lower than it could have been if they had sold a compact car globally? Therefore, the stockholders who are expecting car sales to go up, to see margins go up, sales go up, we need to wait longer for that to show up because we're betting, the stock now is betting completely on this robotaxi, which will be this kind of thing. We're slow, and then all of a sudden it becomes 5 times greater than the car business. But it won't happen for a couple of years. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that where we're at now?
Yeah, I'm in the camp that is a little bit more patient about the robotaxi and sees a longer development time. There are some people who are telling me that, oh no, it's going to be explosive and it's going to be overnight and so on. I don't see it. I think that to roll out the robotaxi is going to be a build-up over time. It's not going to be overnight. I think it's going to take a year or two.
I agree with that, yeah.
And I think the big question that you framed very well is what kind of less expensive car are we going to see? And is the company update that's coming next week going to include any product announcements? Classically, in earnings calls, Elon is very opposed to talking about, product announcements. But the fact that he has a company announcement lends credence to the thought that he may be prepared to talk about this. This is one of the great mysteries. They've been very coy about it. The fact that they're being coy about it and they haven't had any other product announcements, it could go both ways. And I'm not given to either to make either, to make a choice. I know that if I were running the company, I would have gone for a new, like a Model 2, a real downsized car. I mean, maybe using some of the. Sorry,
you're a startup dude. You're an entrepreneur. You've built companies before, so.
Yeah. That would be my product bias, but Elon has a much greater level of risk taking.
Yeah.
Sense than I do. He's taken risks that I would not have, and he's been proven right, and I've been proven wrong again and again and again.
So in this case, for example, right? So he's in February of last year, he was having this debate with his executive team.
Right.
At that time, though, they did not know yet that they were going to be able to build Cortex. They did not know yet that the FSD was going to show 1,000 times improvement from 12 to 13 or to 12 and then to now to 13. They did not know yet, right, that Cybercab was going to be launched, that kind of stuff. Like I'm sure they were planning it and everything, but all these things actually did happen. They did not know yet that Elon was going to get into a great relationship with President Trump that therefore increases, because remember, at that time, it was still very much the Biden and the NHTSA of that time.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, things have flipped, and now the chances of getting regulatory approval for robotaxi has increased. The chances of that, not only in the U.S., now they rolled out FSD in China and Europe. Like this vision that Elon had, making this bet so far in a year, these things have all moved forward. So all of a sudden, now, so my point is this. I keep saying, why would Tesla continue to build cars? Drivable cars. I guess you have to because it's going to take 5 to 10 years. But I'm just saying, why wouldn't you build as many kind of autonomous cars, autonomous first cars? You got the Cybercab, you have a RoboVan, you create those kind of things at this point. You're taking your eye off the ball if you're creating yet a new car that you're going to sell to to people when you've got robotaxi coming out now.
Because you've got another 5 to 7 years.
Yeah. There's that
That
transition
you have
period.
to supply the global market with vehicles. And there's, you can definitely write down the capital cost of a new model in a 5 to 7 year period, particularly if that model has got a very, very large TAM. And, you've got India, you've got, there is a much larger market, at least an order of magnitude larger market for a car that has this, lower price. It's a tough call. And, if they're battery constrained, then there's every argument to say, you know what, let the car business limp along while we build the robotaxi. And that depends on the battery supply. I think that's the crucial question. Is how the battery supply can be levered in and what they need. And, the semi factory is going to be ready by the end of the year. That semi is going to suck a lot of batteries if they're going to sell that in any very large volume. So this is such a difficult set of equations for an outsider to try and guess, the variables that go into this equation to get a balance. Yeah, I think it's almost impossible from the outside looking in. But, we have to rely upon Elon's ability to project product success, which has been phenomenal. I mean, think about every product he's ever invented, and my goodness, he's hit it has to be a 90% or 90% success rate. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Yeah. I can't think of anybody since Edison has been able to achieve that.
Yeah, you and I lived through the acquisition of Twitter, and how it was about to go. Everybody said it was going to go down. He got rid of people because he was losing money like crazy. He was like, it was about to go bankrupt in a month, but they had to move data warehouses because there was one data warehouse that's costing so much money, and they didn't need it. Anyways, here we are, live and strong. Great app. He's turned it around, right? We had the advertisers leaving. So yeah, just watching him take a product and
paper,
company.
It's one of the best investments I've ever made in terms of timing.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
I put that money into Twitter. Not a lot of money, but some fair investment. And on paper, it's like 5 times in like 2 years.
Yeah, that's how quick.
5x in 2 years.
Yeah, so this is interesting, right? I think that because what the executives were saying was that the robotaxi revenue will be slower uptake than, and that if they create a more affordable vehicle that's not the compact car, that will again not be as lucrative. So I think we're probably in that stage where, like you said, there's that bet, and so you have to start redirecting things to the robotaxi. But in the meantime, you're not going to see sales go up as fast as it could have. That's okay.
We're in Never Never Land, and it's it's fun to guess. You could perhaps start some kind of betting. I mean, we should put this up onto one of those betting.
There's a betting sites out there. Okay, so the other thing that Tom Lee said here was that the stock is oversold, which is great. That's great. Sold out, which is even better than oversold. That means that there's less people, he thinks, that are going to sell the stock. But you're saying, we don't know, right? There's always somebody who wants to sell. Now, what do you think about his comment that because Tesla has 30% exposure to China, it is one you need to keep an eye on, but then he just washes that away and says, but it's sold out. So I was like, what? But I agree that I don't think that the China tariffs are going to impact Tesla as much, and that I believe that I think at some point Trump could actually give him an exemption anyways. The only thing that's going to affect Tesla right now, so I didn't know where he got the 30% number of supply, but my understanding directly from Tesla executives is that a Tesla car sold in China is 95% supplied in China. Now in the US, it could be like Cybertrucks. I can see that could have 30% parts from other places, but I thought it was Mexico and Canada. But regardless, Trump could, and he's already said he's going to give an extension for the automakers. And I don't know at this point why we would think that Tesla's not going to be part of that exemption.
Well, I think the risk is not so much what Trump is going to do. The risk is what China's going to do. I mean, China's angry.
Yeah.
And that anger can, it can manifest itself in many ways. One is China can just cut off the US completely. Now, I mean, that doesn't seem to make sense from a game theory point of view. From a game theory point of view, none of what's going on makes a lot of sense. I think from a game theory point of view, what Trump has done doesn't make a lot of sense. And a lot of my friends criticize me for criticizing Trump's strategy here, but it didn't make sense to me what he did at the outset. I'm not sure that getting into a trade war with China is the right thing to do. I think if we want to disengage from China, I think there were a lot less disruptive ways to have done that. But here we are. And where we are is, I think, a danger zone from Tesla's point of view. I mean, the last thing China wants to do in terms of this war is disrupt Tesla. Why? Because Tesla is their pathfinder. Tesla has been their pathfinder. Tesla still is their pathfinder. BYD is in trouble financially. I mean, BYD exists by the grace of the Chinese government. Maybe if they closed down Tesla, it would save BYD. I don't know, but BYD is not making money, it's losing money. And the only way it survives is direct government payments. I spoke about BYD a year and a half ago and showed that while their gross margins are reasonable on their cars, their administrative overhead is so gigantic that there's virtually no profit there. And if you look at their last report, this is a year and a half later after I spoke, and AJ's done an analysis of this.
Yeah,
they're only making their profit is very, very, very thin at the top, and most of it comes from direct government payments.
Yeah.
So, China's in this really strange place where they're trying to recover from, their real estate crash. They're trying to recover from their COVID lockdown. And now they've got this trade war with the US. Who knows? It's very hard to tell where this goes.
What's going to happen. Yeah.
But it's not fun.
Okay. We'll follow that closely. Appreciate your comments there. Yeah, it's up to China. Let's watch this video from Mark Zandi, who's Moody's analytics economist. And he's saying that people are buying more cars in March because I think they're anticipating the tariff war is going to increase the price. Let's watch what he's saying here. This is Yahoo Finance published this video of this interview that they just did.
Yeah, I think you got it right, Brad. I think there was a lot of forward buying, particularly for vehicles. I think consumers are well aware of the tariffs and the impact that's going to have dead ahead, and decided to get that car before its price increased. So I think, if my memory serves, we sold 17.5 million cars, light vehicles, in the month of March. That's annualized, obviously, and that's up 1.5 million compared to where it was prior to that, kind of the underlying trend. So, I think retailing is okay through March. The forward buying certainly helped, but obviously that steals away from future consumer spending and retail sales, which augurs poorly for the future.
How poorly for the future, Mark? I wonder, I know that you had a recession call of around 60% odds of a recession as of April 10th. Where does that call stand for you today?
About the same. I think odds are better than even. Madison, that we'll suffer a recession starting at some point this year. To be precise, 60%. So that hasn't changed. I think there's still a 40% chance we don't go into recession, and it depends on what the Trump administration does with the tariffs. If they take an off-ramp here and continue to de-escalate, lower the tariffs that they've imposed or threatened to impose, and figure out a way to cool things off, then we've got a chance to navigate through without a downturn. But that doesn't feel like what's going to happen, at least not right now. If the trade war continues to intensify, I think a recession is more likely than not.
What's your thoughts about his analysis there?
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, in relation to the the rate of sales of cars in last month, yes, they've hit like the 17.5 million annualized rate. But remember, they had fallen to like a 14.5 million annualized rate in the prior quarter. So we've got two things happening. One, people are buying in advance in expectation of this tariff problem, and they're buying to make up what they didn't buy in the previous quarter. So you've got that double whammy. So that may explain the March.
It's temporary, yeah.
Yeah, the March boost. In relation to his economic call of the potential recession, 60% chance of recession, I think I have this view that we're in a rolling recession.
Yeah.
That other than government's expenditure and healthcare, we have been in a recession. So if you look at the economy from the perspective of the working person, we've been in a recession for almost a year and a half now. If you look at the economy from the perspective of non-governmental and non-healthcare expenditures, we've been in a recession. So all these other industries, other than high tech in the top 7 companies and government and some healthcare or a large portion of healthcare, the economy is in recession. So I don't expect there to be a very significant change in that, other than government expenditure is going to come down quite significantly. And so that may contribute to a continuation of this rolling recession. And I don't expect to see a recovery until we see a real recovery, until we see a resolution to the trade war that we're busy brewing with China.
Wonderful. Loved hearing your views on economy. You're pretty good about that analysis. And whenever I've had that discussion with you in the past. So Tom Lee, great, thinking about the, they're very focused on the technicals, Tom and Fundstrat, but they've been calling it right, it seems. So we'll see and follow them some more. And it's curious to see how they see Tesla stock. And right now they're pretty bullish on it still, regardless. Or let's say they're less pessimistic on it than that could be. Thank you so much, Larry. Follow Larry on his X account at Tesla Larry. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.